Welcome to Aligned and Soulful Leadership. My name is Kavita Milwani, and I empower soulful, multicultural women of color to opulently shine their light without the hustle. I truly believe you can fulfill your soul's desire without losing yourself, your health, or your life in the process. I know that you can ignite your confidence and know your worth, all while walking your divine, unique path. So in this podcast, I will dive deep into topics, challenges, and blocks that women of color experience as they rise up into their aligned life and work. My deep desire is that BIPOC women can lead through their inner wisdom in a way that honors their soul. Are you ready to rise up as the leader you were born to be? Then this podcast is for you. Self-worth and self-esteem. These are things that I have continued to work on to improve within myself. And it's a challenge that I see in a lot of my clients. They have a sense of self-esteem or self-worth that is not where they would like. They often question their actions and maybe even see how they are just not good enough, don't measure up, and maybe even feel like there's something wrong with them. So today I want to dive more into things that are contributing to your self-worth story and strategies to help uncover that story so that you can bring that into consciousness, which a lot of it is probably unconscious. And then as you bring it to your consciousness, you're able to shift it and work on it. So how is your idea of self-worth right now? If you had to tell someone that was maybe not a friend, family member, but someone you would not be able to judge you, like a coach or therapist or someone like that, and you were able to say it honestly, truthfully, and authentically, what would you say is the answer to your self-worth and what you believe about yourself? And if you're not sure, you can see what is happening around you and how you are receiving or not receiving validation, recognition, how people perceive you. Well, the only way that you're going to know that is by your perception of how they perceive you, right? So just looking externally and see what ideas are you getting about your self-worth, and how does that impact how you show up in the world? What do you believe that you deserve, and how do you define your worth? So these are all often based on our conditioning. We are conditioned by several things, such as society, our parents, our family of origin, culture, and then our own personality and how we measure up to what society values. Maybe if you're multicultural, what the society around you immediately values, your culture that you live in versus the greater culture. And so when there's that layer of confusion where there's a difference to those, that can create a questioning of what you want and your self-worth. And so these are all contributing factors, right? And so I'll go a little bit more into that. So first, what society values and what you're taught by what you see around. It doesn't take long to look at social media, to look at what professions are high paid, which people are looked to as models and role models, and often not what we would like our children, if you have children, or our society to go towards. Yet we show our value in one way that we do that is through to money through remuneration. So we pay these people high amounts of money because our society values them in some way, shape, or form. And that creates this kind of sense that, oh, well, then I am somehow, if I don't measure up to whatever is valued in that person, then I am less valuable. And so then these things are happening around you constantly, whether you're conscious of them or not. So this is impacting your idea of self-worth. And then if you take that into your own household and maybe even the community you live in, and then your culture, what are the things that are valued in those areas? And sometimes they overlap and they're the same, and sometimes they're not, right? So sometimes it can be that education, for instance, is valued in the community, and education is valued in the place you live. But maybe in your family of origin or in your culture, education is not valued as much. So a person's worth is determined by your greater surroundings, by their education and the level of education. But in your family, it may not be, or it could be vice versa. And maybe it's not education, but it could be other things, right? And so that when you have these external indicators of self-worth, not only are they inaccurate, as you're hopefully starting to see that they're flawed, because in some societies, some things are valued, in some societies, they're not. So then if these external things can vary, then why is that an actual definition of your self-worth? And why is that impacting how you feel? I mean, and often it is impacting how you feel about yourself and your worth, and it's unconscious. Okay. And so we have the society in general, your culture, and then you have also your community. And if you are also maybe have some different interests or want to pursue a different career path than those around you, or if you're in a place where you don't feel like there are a lot of people that look like you, especially if you're bicultural, that can also impact your self-worth. If you're not actually measuring up in your own mind, right? So I will be clear that what you're seeing externally is what you actually believe. So working on that internal, working on what you believe and what you truly believe about yourself and your self-worth, then the external will shift. Okay. And so how do you know what this is? What conditioning is impacting your self-worth? What are the stories that you've taken into your unconscious mind that are impacting this? So one of the ways to do this that I teach is knowing your story, knowing your self-worth story. And so I go through this with my clients, and so I'll go through part of it with you today so that you can start this process. And the reason I'm not going to go through the whole process is because it's important, especially if this causes some deep emotion, evokes deep emotion, that you do this with some support, okay? And so that's why I am just giving you enough to get this process started. And I would love for you to start this process of improving and increasing your self-worth. So here are some things to ask yourself. Who in your family of origin was the person that, or people that were valued, that were talked about in high regard? Who were those people that were kind of put on a pedestal? Those people that when, if they were in town, if they came to visit your home, that, you spent extra effort to make them happy. And even if they're not people who were the people in media that were talked about in a positive light? So I would take a few moments and really write all that down and who these people are. And then beyond that, writing down the traits that were valued in them. You can base this on the narratives, like on the stories that were told in your household or that you remember really. And as you're writing that, you may start to notice that those are the values that you are using to, some of the things that you're using to measure your own self-worth with. And then another question to ask yourself is, who in your family of origin were allowed to relax, have a good time? Who were, quote unquote, the people that deserved to take a break? So were they the certain genders? Were they people that were in certain professions? You know, in your household, what was normal? Okay. And so I know in my family of origin, often the men are the ones allowed to take breaks and to relax because they were the ones traditionally that were earning money and bringing in money. So then they were the ones that were deserving of the break. And so these are messages that, you know, I received growing up and impact how I show up. I choose to take this narrative and switch this narrative in my mind now that I'm consciously aware of it and see it in a way that is not in alignment with what I was taught, right? Because I believe that we all deserve to take breaks. We all deserve to take care of ourselves. But it took me some time to get to that point. And part of that was to uncover that I tied my self-worth to my gender. And guess what? My gender didn't fit what was the value gender in my culture of origin. And so then what? I don't deserve that, right? I'm not deserving. And of course, that will impact your self-worth. So starting with those things, who got to relax? Who were the people that were valued, right? And so just uncovering those and starting to match. And so now that you have the answers to those two questions, look at yourself and really write down what it is and how you define your own worth. And if you could be the best version of yourself, if you could feel like you're amazing and be able to walk into a room with the full confidence, what externally would be there that would need to be there for you to do that? Now, obviously, this doesn't need to happen, but it's a sense of like, if I could do this, then I know I could walk into a room and feel confident. If I could accomplish this, if I could look a certain way, it may be about your career, it may be about certain things, right? So I would just write that down and be clear, be honest with yourself. You know, this is for yourself and for your own growth, right? So just write it all down. And when you're done writing it, I want you to compare this to your own, the other questions that we talked about earlier, your family of origin, who was talked about, who was revered, and then also who was allowed to take a break, who was allowed that to recharge. Okay. And so compare these two and see the similarities in the traits, the adjectives, the accomplishments. And so what you're seeing here is impacting how you feel about yourself, impacting your self-worth. And maybe some of this was apparent to you in your conscious mind and some of it was not. And today's the opportunity for you to bring this into consciousness so you can shift those beliefs. Because I truly believe that we all are souls on this earth and we are here and we're all part of each other. Right? And so we're energy and we're here to learn our lessons. And so no one is in better than another. No one is worth more than another. And so this idea that like these accomplishments and what you do and, the house and the car and the money and the degrees and the education and the ingenuity and the body image, and especially for women, like how you look and all these things, the friends you have, the parties you go to, that these things make someone worthier than another person is an unfortunate thing that's happening and we see in our society. So I want you to really own your worthiness and your inherent worthiness as a being, as in a being of light. And take these other things that you're seeing as external indicators of your worth and question them. Question them because they are not truly who you are. And they're not a definition of your worth. So I'm going to continue to talk about this. I have some really fun and exciting series coming up where I'm going to talk more about our ego mind, our energy, relationships, and dreams. And, I really want to talk more about this idea of our true essence in the world. And so I'm excited to share this with you. And if there are some things that you would like to hear about, I would love to hear from you. You can email me, contact me through my website, which will be in the show notes, and let me know. I would love for you to talk about and fill in the blank, the topic. So until next time, this is Kavita with Aligned and Soulful. Take good care. Bye. Thank you for joining me for Aligned and Soulful Leadership. I was inspired to start this podcast as a way to empower women of color to rise up into their aligned leadership. Remember, I will have all the resources I mentioned during this episode available in the show notes at alignedandsoulfulpodcast.com. I'm your host, Kavita, and if you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends. And if you haven't received my free abundance meditation and exercise, then go to alignedandsoulfulleadership.com and subscribe to my newsletter, and you will receive this powerful visualization and exercise to ignite your abundant life. Thank you. Until next time, take good care. Bye.